The night was dark and silent when a young prince first heard the strange sound coming from the royal garden. It was not the sound of soldiers training, nor the music of palace celebrations. It was the soft creaking of wood, almost like someone whispering through the wind. Curious and restless, the prince stepped out of his luxurious room and followed the sound into the moonlight. There, under the old banyan tree, stood a mysterious wooden horse unlike anything he had ever seen before. Its eyes seemed alive, and beside it sat an old man, smiling strangely. The prince had no idea that this one meeting would change his destiny forever and teach him a lesson greater than any king could ever teach. Prince Zayan was the only son of the mighty King of Noorabad. Since childhood, he had everything people could dream of: golden clothes, servants at every step, delicious feasts, and a palace bigger than an entire village. But despite all the luxury, Zayan was spoiled, arrogant, and careless. He believed power made him superior to everyone else. Whenever poor villagers came to the palace asking for help, the prince would laugh at them. He mocked farmers for their dirty clothes and insulted workers for their simple lives. Even the king worried about his son's behavior. One morning, during a royal gathering, the king said seriously, "A ruler is not remembered by his riches, but by his kindness." But Prince Zayan only smirked. "Kindness is for weak people, father. Fear is what makes people obey." The king sighed deeply. He knew no lecture could change the prince's heart. That same evening, while wandering angrily through the palace garden after an argument with his father, Zayan noticed an old man sitting calmly beside a wooden horse. The horse looked beautifully carved from dark brown wood, with golden patterns shining under the moonlight. The prince frowned. "Who allowed you inside the royal garden?" The old man smiled gently. "I came to gift this horse to the prince." Zayan laughed loudly. "A wooden horse? Do I look like a child to you?" "This is no ordinary horse," the old man replied mysteriously. "It carries a person not only across lands, but across truth itself." The prince rolled his eyes. "Old man, your stories are foolish." Still, something about the horse attracted him. Its eyes looked strangely real. "How does it work?" he asked impatiently. The old man pointed toward a golden handle near the horse's neck. "Turn it to the right, and it shall fly." The prince burst into laughter again. "Fly? You expect me to believe that?" "Try it," the old man whispered. Confident and arrogant, Prince Zayan jumped onto the wooden horse. "Watch carefully," he mocked. He turned the handle. Suddenly, the horse began shaking violently. Before the prince could react, it shot into the sky like lightning. Zayan screamed in terror as the palace disappeared below him. Cold wind hit his face while clouds rushed around him. The wooden horse flew higher and higher across mountains, rivers, and endless deserts. "Stop! Stop this thing!" the prince shouted desperately. But the horse continued flying until finally it began descending toward a strange kingdom hidden between dark forests and giant cliffs. The horse landed roughly near a small village. Shaking with fear, the prince climbed down. His royal clothes were covered in dust, and for the first time in his life, there were no guards around him. As he looked around, villagers stared at him suspiciously. An old woman approached carefully. "Who are you?" "I am Prince Zayan of Noorabad," he declared proudly. But instead of bowing, the villagers laughed. One man said, "Another hungry traveler pretending to be royalty." The prince became furious. "How dare you insult me?" But nobody cared. Soon hunger began troubling him. Hours passed, yet no servant brought him food. No soldier obeyed his orders. At sunset, exhausted and starving, he knocked on the door of a tiny broken hut. A poor young girl opened the door. Her clothes were old, but her eyes were kind. "Yes," she asked softly. "I need food and a place to rest," the prince demanded. The girl looked at his dusty appearance and nodded gently. "We are poor, but you may enter." Inside the hut, Zayan saw her blind mother lying weakly on a bed while a small child slept near the fire. The girl served him dry bread and water. The prince stared in disgust. "This is all." The girl smiled sadly. "It is all we have." For the first time in his life, Zayan ate simple food because he had no other choice. That night, while lying on the hard floor, he heard the girl coughing outside while cutting wood in the cold darkness. Confused, he stepped out. "Why are you working at this hour?" The girl wiped sweat from her forehead. "If I don't sell wood tomorrow, my family won't eat." The prince was shocked. In the palace, he had wasted more food in one meal than this family saw in a week. The next morning, the girl carried heavy bundles of wood toward the market. Zayan followed silently. People insulted her, bargained harshly, and treated her badly. Yet she remained patient and polite. At one point, an old beggar fell on the road. Without hesitation, the girl gave him half her earnings. Zayan stared in disbelief. "You barely have enough for yourself. Why help him?" The girl smiled gently. "Because pain feels lighter when shared." Her words echoed inside the prince's mind all day. Days passed. Unable to return home, Zayan slowly began helping the girl's family. He carried wood, repaired broken fences, and fetched water from the river. For the first time, he experienced exhaustion, hunger, and hardship. One evening, while sitting near the fire, the girl asked quietly, "In your kingdom, does the prince care for the poor?" "You have learned what you needed to learn," he said. The prince stepped forward slowly. "Who are you?" "Only a messenger," the old man replied. "The horse reveals truth to those blinded by arrogance." Zayan looked back toward the poor family who had changed him forever. Tears filled his eyes. "I don't want to leave them." The girl smiled warmly. "Your people need you more." The prince bowed his head respectfully before her. It was the first sincere bow of his life. He climbed onto the wooden horse once more. Within moments, it carried him back across the skies toward Noorabad. When he returned to the palace, the king embraced him with tears of relief. But something was different. The arrogant prince had disappeared. From that day onward, Prince Zayan transformed completely. He opened food houses for the poor, reduced taxes on farmers, and personally visited villages to help struggling families. People who once feared him now loved him deeply. Years later, when Zayan finally became king, he ruled with justice and compassion. And every night, hidden safely inside his royal chamber, stood the mysterious wooden horse that had changed his destiny forever. Sometimes the greatest journeys are not across kingdoms, but across the human heart. And true royalty is not measured by crowns or gold, but by kindness, sacrifice, and humility.